Giannis' situation in Milwaukee is probably short-term.
Briefly engaged in trade talks with the Knicks this summer about a potential deal for two-time MVP Giannis.
I'm locked into whatever I have in front of me. Now if in 6-7 months I change my mind, I think that's human too.
We need to talk about what's happening in Milwaukee right now, because if you've been following the Giannis situation, you know that alarm bell should be ringing all over Wisconsin. Giannis just said it again. You know, that statement, the one that makes Bucks fans' hearts drop. And this time, with everything that's happened in the offseason, with the Knicks reportedly in his ear, with the roster looking questionable at best, this might actually be different. So real quick, before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to get the latest basketball news. And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. We've been on a generational run on prize picks. We hit on 5 of our picks on Sunday and made over $1,000, and you guys have been blowing up my inbox on Instagram letting me know about it. I'm personally really happy we're all winning big, and I have a wild play for Thursday Night Football. So first, make sure you sign up for prize picks using my promo code microphone so you can get $50 in plays when you make a play of $5 or more. And then follow this crazy pick for Thursday Night Football. I'm going to try to turn $20 into $350. I have Devontae Smith's longest reception being at least 15 yards. Dallas Goedert has been on a touchdown streak. I think he's going to get another one in this game against the Giants. I think Jackson Dart will be good for at least one pass TD, and this is the riskiest one of all. I think AJ Brown scores a touchdown in this game. He's had a conversation with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. They've been trying to figure out a way to get him more involved. If you think that's too risky, feel free not to include it, but I'm including it myself. I'm going to have additional plays on Thursday in my Discord server. If you want to check that out, click on the WAP link in the description down below. We've been profiting on a daily basis, and there's baseball picks in there as well. And thank you, Prize Picks, for today's sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? So check this out. It's July 2025. The Bucks just got bounced in the first round again for the 3rd straight year, and Damian Lillard is rehabbing from a torn Achilles that he suffered in Game 4 of that series against the Pacers. Now, Dame had just come back from a blood clot issue, played 3 games on basically one leg, and then his Achilles just gave out. That's devastating. But here's where it gets crazy. The Bucks, instead of just waiting it out, instead of seeing if Dame could potentially come back later in the season, they made one of the most shocking moves of the entire offseason. They waived him. They used the stretch provision to spread out his remaining $113 million over 5 years instead of 2. Why? To sign Miles Turner to a 4-year, $107 million deal. Now look, I get it. Brook Lopez left for the Clippers and they needed a center. Miles Turner is nice. He averaged 15.6 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game for the Pacers last year. He shot almost 40% from 3 and just helped Indiana reach the NBA Finals. The Pacers don't make the NBA Finals without Miles Turner's contributions. There's no question about that. He's only one of 4 players in the league last season who had 100 plus blocks, 100 plus threes, and 50 plus steals. The dude can space the floor and protect the rim, which is exactly what you want next to Giannis. But here's the thing, and this is crucial. The Bucks essentially replaced an all-star guard who averaged 24.9 points and 7.1 assists with a center. That's not an upgrade in terms of winning now, that's a sideways move at best. They're banking on Miles Turner being the missing piece, but they lost their second best creator and one of the most clutch guards in the league. And now they've got over $22 million in dead cap space from Dame's stretch salary on their books for the next 5 years. And that's not ideal when you're building a championship contender. So now we get to September 29th, it's Bucks Media Day, and Giannis, who's stuck in Greece with COVID, has to hop on a Zoom call to talk to reporters. And here's what he said: "I want to be on a team that allows me and gives me a chance to win a championship. I think it's a disservice to basketball, just to the game, to not want to compete at a high level, to want your season to end in April." Now, if you're a Bucks fan, you're thinking, well, he said this stuff before, and you're right. Back in 2020 and 2023, Giannis signed max extensions after similar similar comments. Both times people thought he might leave, and both times he stayed. After that first extension in 2020, the Bucks won the championship in 2021, with Giannis dropping 35.2 points per game in the finals and winning NBA Finals MVP. But here's why this time is different. This time we have receipts. We have actual proof that Giannis didn't just think about leaving, he actually talked to the Milwaukee Bucks about it. And not just that, there were real trade discussions with another team. For those of you guys that missed it, Shams dropped a bomb on Tuesday when he revealed what really went down this summer. And when I tell you this is wild, I mean wild.
Look, they were serious simply for the facts that sources told me the New York Knicks emerged as the team in August that Giannis Antetokounmpo wanted to play for if he were to be traded outside of Milwaukee, if these two sides could reach agreement on a deal. And so the Bucks also picked up that phone call that the Knicks made. And I was told essentially from one source that this was an exclusive negotiating window that the Knicks had over multiple weeks. In August, Leon Rose, the Knicks president, called John Horst, the Bucks general manager. These sides had multiple conversations. Offers were made, but there are two sides to this. The Bucks, I'm told, believe that the Knicks did not even offer a deal strong enough to continue these conversations. The Knicks believe, I'm told, that the Bucks never seriously considered a trade of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and this all stems from the facts that Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Bucks still believe, is a guy that can help them right now win a championship. They still want to win with Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's what I'm told.
So back in late July, John Horst, the Bucks GM, flies out to Athens, Greece for a face-to-face meeting with Giannis and one of his agents. This is right after the Miles Turner signing, right after they waived Dame. And in this meeting, Horst is laying out his vision, saying, hey, we got Miles, we can compete for a championship in the East. And to be honest, haha, see what I did there? What? That's not the boldest claim. The Indiana Pacers lost Tyrese Halliburton for the season due to a torn Achilles. The same could be said about Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. Even though there's a crazy report coming out that Jason Tatum's going to try to come back in March, the Boston Celtics completely dismantled their core, trading Drew Holiday to the Blazers and Kristaps Porzingis to the Hawks. Despite this, Giannis still expressed serious concerns. He wanted to explore whether there was an alternative path forward, not just for him, but for both sides. Now here's where it gets really interesting. According to Shams, several teams were discussed internally, but one emerged as the only place that Giannis wanted to play outside of Milwaukee: the New York Knicks. The Knicks, Madison Square Garden, the biggest market in basketball. And apparently, Giannis gave them the green light. So what happened? The Bucks picked up the Knicks call, and the sides engaged in conversations for a window of time in August. Shams described it as an exclusive negotiating window. Basically, the Knicks were the only team the Bucks were willing to talk to about Giannis because Giannis only wanted New York. But here's the thing, the talks never got serious. The Bucks felt like the Knicks didn't make a strong enough offer. On the flip side, the Knicks believe the Bucks were never truly serious about moving Giannis. And honestly, both sides are probably right. The Bucks don't really want to trade the greatest player in franchise history, the dude who brought them their first championship in 50 years, and the Knicks couldn't really put together a Godfather offer because they'd already traded 5 first-round picks to get Mikal Bridges, and then signed Bridges to a 4-year, $150 million extension, which made him ineligible to be traded until February. So what could the Knicks even offer at this point? Maybe OG Anunoby and Josh Hart plus a pick, or Karl Anthony Towns and Miles McBride? But is that really enough for a 2-time MVP who just averaged 30.4 points and 11.9 rebounds? Probably not. The talks fizzled out, and by late August, the Bucks signed Giannis's brother Thanasis to a 1-year deal, which helped smooth things over. Family matters, you know? That seemed to be enough to get Giannis to commit to starting the season in Milwaukee. But here's the key thing, and Shams emphasized this in his report: Giannis is expected to keep his options open, depending on how the Bucks perform early in the season. If Milwaukee struggles, if they're mediocre, if they're the 5th or 6th seed come December or January, all bets are off. So now we really need to talk about the elephant in the room. Can this Milwaukee Bucks team actually compete for a championship? Because that's what Giannis cares about. Giannis is 30 years old. He's going to turn 31 in December. He's in his prime. He doesn't have time to waste on a rebuilding project or a mediocre squad that gets bounced in the first round. Let's take a look at what they have. Obviously, you have Giannis, who's still elite. He averaged 30.4 points and 11.9 rebounds and 6.5 assists last season. He's a 9-time All-Star, 2-time MVP, and has been first-team All-NBA night for 7 straight years. This man is a walking 30-point double-double. He's unstoppable. Then you've got Miles Turner, who theoretically should be a great fit. He can space the floor, he can protect the rim, he's mobile, and on paper, he's everything you want in a modern center playing next to Giannis. Doc Rivers even said if you could sit down before free agency started and draw the perfect fit next to Giannis, it was a picture of him. But here's the problem. Who's creating offense for this team? They brought back Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., and Taurean Prince. Solid role players, don't get me wrong, but where's the secondary creator? Where's the guy who can take pressure off Giannis and get buckets when the defense locks in on him in the playoffs? Gary Trent Jr. is a nice shooter and he can catch fire quickly, but he's not a playmaker. Kevin Porter Jr. is more of a high upside project. Bobby Portis is a great energy guy off the bench, but none of these guys are replacing what Damian Lillard brought to the table as a secondary creator and clutch shot maker. And let's be real about the Eastern Conference right now. The Bucks are trying to sell themselves on the idea that the East is wide open because Jason Tatum tore his Achilles in the second round against the Knicks and will miss most, if not all, of this season, and Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles in Game 7 of the finals and is confirmed to miss the entire season. So yeah, the Celtics and Pacers, two teams that were better than Milwaukee last year, are significantly worse now. That's a fact. But here's the thing, just because they're worse doesn't mean the Bucks are magically contenders. Because while the Celtics and Pacers are dealing with devastating injuries, there are still two major problems standing in Milwaukee's way: the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's start with the Knicks, since they're clearly the team Giannis has his eye on. New York made the Eastern Conference Finals last year before losing to the Pacers in 6 games, and their roster is stacked now. They've got Karl Anthony Towns, who averaged 25.1 points and a career-high 13.9 rebounds this past season, shooting 54.4% from the field and 43.3% from 3. Towns and Jalen Brunson were both all-star starters last year, with Brunson putting up 26 points and 7.3 assists while shooting nearly 49% from the field. Then you've got Mikal Bridges, who they acquired last offseason and immediately locked up long-term. You've got OG Anunoby, one of the best two-way wings in the league. You've got Josh Hart, who's become a jack-of-all-trades player who can do everything, and they just added Malcolm Brogdon and Jordan Clarkson to give them bench scoring, which was their biggest weakness last year. This Knicks team is deep. They're talented. They brought in a brand new coach in Mike Brown, and they play hard. Can the Bucks really beat them in a 7-game series? I'm not so sure. And then there's Cleveland. Oh man, the Cavaliers. They finished 64-18 last season, the best record in the Eastern Conference by a mile. Donovan Mitchell averaged 24 points. Darius Garland put up 20.6 points and 6.7 assists. And Evan Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, they lost in the second round to the Pacers as well, but that was largely because Donovan Mitchell was playing hurt, and they just couldn't overcome Tyrese Halliburton's incredible playoff run. But now they added Lonzo Ball as a backup, who's reportedly looking great in training camp, and they've got one more year of continuity with their core 4. Kenny Atkinson won Coach of the Year, and this team knows how to win regular season games. They're balanced, they're deep, they play elite defense, and they've got multiple guys who can create their own shot. Can the Bucks really beat Cleveland in a playoff series? Again, I'm skeptical. So let's be real about what the Bucks are right now. They're a team with one transcendent superstar, a good starting center, and a bunch of solid role players. That's not a championship contender. That's a team that might make the playoffs, might win a round if things break right, but probably isn't making the finals. And here's the harsh reality. The Milwaukee Bucks don't own a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft, and they won't control where they pick in the first round until 2031. They've got no cap space because of the Dame stretch provision, and they've got no trade assets beyond Giannis himself. So how exactly are they supposed to get better? What's the path to contention? John Horst can say all he wants that he believes in this roster, but Giannis clearly has doubts, and honestly, he should. The Bucks have now had 3 consecutive first-round exits, 3 years in a row of coming up short, and the roster they're putting around Giannis this year isn't noticeably better than what they've had in recent years. In some ways, it might actually be worse, because at least when they had Dame fully healthy, they had that second star who could create his own shot. So here's the million-dollar question. What does Giannis do? On one hand, he's loyal. He's been with Milwaukee his entire career. They drafted him with the 15th overall pick back in 2013. They developed him, supported him, built around him, and they won a championship together in 2021. There's a bond there that's real. Giannis has also repeatedly said that he wants to be in Milwaukee and that it's home for him and his family. His wife, his kids, his brothers, well, they were originally all living there, but they just recently moved to Athens, Greece. increased, so I'm not necessarily sure what that means anymore. In addition, Giannis is 30 years old. He's running out of time to win another championship. He sees guys like LeBron James, who left Cleveland to win titles in Miami. He sees guys like Kevin Durant, who left Oklahoma City to win titles in Golden State. He sees that sometimes loyalty only gets you so far. And the thing is, Giannis has already given Milwaukee everything. He signed that Supermax extension in 2020, and then he signed another extension in 2023. He's under contract through 2027 with a player option for 2028. He's committed financially, but at some point, if the Bucks can't put a contender around him, he has every right to ask for something different. And based on what Shams reported, it seems like Giannis is at least starting to think about it. He's keeping his options open. He's watching what the Bucks do early this season, and if they struggle, if they're mediocre, don't be shocked if we start hearing trade rumblings again by the trade deadline or next summer. Let's circle back to the Knicks for a second, because I think that's the most important part of this entire story. The fact that Giannis specifically said he'd only want to go to New York, that's significant. That's not just, I want to win, that's, I want to win in that specific place. Think about what the Knicks offer. They're the biggest market in basketball. They've got a passionate fan base that hasn't had a championship since 1973. They've got a talented roster that's already a contender. They've got financial resources to build around him. They've got the Garden, the most famous arena in basketball. For a guy like Giannis, who's already won in Milwaukee and established his legacy there, New York represents something different. It represents the ultimate stage. It represents the chance to cement himself as one of the all-time greats by bringing a championship to the most starved fan base in the league. And let's be honest, the Knicks have been trying to land a superstar for years. They swung and missed on LeBron multiple times. They swung and missed on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You guys remember those Photoshops 6 years ago of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Zion Williamson in a Knicks jersey? The Knicks had to take an alternative path. They've been building methodically, but they never quite landed that guy who could put them over the top. Giannis could be that guy. Imagine a lineup of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Giannis, and Karl Anthony Towns. That's scary. That's finals contender scary. That's dynasty potential. Now the big question is, would the Bucks actually trade him, and would the Knicks have enough to get a deal done? The answer to the first question is probably yes, especially if Giannis formally requests a trade. The Bucks would have to at least consider it. You don't want to be in a situation where you're holding on to an unhappy superstar and end up losing him for nothing when his contract is up. The answer to the second question is more complicated. The Knicks don't have a lot of draft capital left after trading for Bridges. They only have one first-round pick and a couple of swaps to offer. Would a package of Cat and multiple rotation players and picks be enough? Maybe, but it would have to be a Godfather offer. So here's what I'm watching for the rest of the season. If the Bucks start off slow, and let's be honest, there's a good chance that they do, the pressure is going to ratchet up immediately. Every loss is going to feel magnified. Every time Giannis looks frustrated on the court, people are going to screenshot it and say he's gone. So in October and November, how do the Bucks look out of the gate? Are they competing with the Knicks and Cavs, or are they clearly a tier below? In December and January, if the Bucks are hovering around 500 or worse, expect the trade rumors to heat up significantly. The biggest one is the February trade deadline. If the Bucks are underperforming and Giannis is clearly unhappy, don't rule out a mid-season trade. It would be shocking, but we've seen crazier things happen. But if nothing happens then summer 2026 is going to be significant, because it would give the Knicks time to restructure their roster, accumulate more assets, and make a real run at Giannis. But at that point, there will be other contenders as well. Remember, LeBron James's contract expires with the Los Angeles Lakers by then. There's a reason why the Lakers didn't sign him to an extension. It's so they could potentially save up cap space for the summer of 2027 and potentially make runs at superstars in summer of 2026. And I just feel really bad for the Milwaukee Bucks, because what's really interesting about this situation is it highlights just how hard it is to build and maintain a championship contender in the modern NBA. The Bucks did everything right. They drafted Giannis, they developed him, they traded for Drew Holiday, they won a championship, but then what? They traded Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard, which cost them more assets. Dame tore his Achilles, they signed Miles Turner, which required waiving Dame and taking on dead cap space, and now they're in this weird limbo where they're not bad enough to rebuild, but they're not good enough to truly contend. And they don't even have their own draft picks, so they have no choice but to attempt to contend. Because if you trade Giannis and you start to stink, then there's another team that's going to be selecting instead of you. And the whole time they're operating with this ticking clock because Giannis is in his prime and won't be this good forever. It's a brutal situation for a front office to be in. So what needs to happen for Giannis to stay? Well, if I'm the Bucks, here's what needs to happen for Giannis to stick around. One, they need to play well immediately, not just make the playoffs playoffs, but they need to be a top 3 seed in the East and look like legitimate contenders. If they're struggling to even make the playoffs, it's over. Next, Miles Turner needs to be exactly what they think he is. He needs to be Brook Lopez 2.0, a perfect fit who can space the floor, protect the rim, and not get played off the court in the playoffs. Next, someone unexpected needs to step up. Gary Trent Jr. had games where he popped off for the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs, and they need that more consistently. Or maybe it's not Gary Trent Jr., maybe it's Kevin Porter Jr. They need someone to emerge as that reliable second or third option. And finally, they need to prove that they're a team that can get past the first round. 3 straight first round exits is clearly a pattern. They need to break that pattern convincingly. If those things don't happen, if the Bucks are mediocre, if Miles Turner is a signing bust, if they have another disappointing playoff run, then I think Giannis is gone. Maybe not this season, but definitely by next summer. Look, I don't want to sit here and tell you that Giannis is definitely leaving Milwaukee because I don't know that. Nobody knows that except Giannis himself. All I'm saying is if you take a look at the entire body of work, if you take a look at the Milwaukee Bucks draft assets, their current team that they've assembled, the likelihood of contention in the Eastern Conference, it's very clear that this is trending in one direction. At the same time, we've seen teams surprise us before in the past, so I think all we could really do is wait. So let me know in the comment section down below. Is Giannis gonna finish the season as a Milwaukee Buck? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.